everyone. So just a few things here. I've had a couple of really weird things going on, and I just wanted to share it. So this is going to be kind of a long video. It is what God has wanted me to put out. It will be on my Facebook page and on my podcast and on my Rumble account and also on my YouTube account. So it might be taken care off of YouTube and Facebook, and if it is, the people in charge of doing that will have to deal with God about this. And I know that I might have some friends and family who unfriend me, and if they do, that's okay. I don't want to lose any of my friends or family, but whenever I have to choose between God and my friends and family, God will always come first. I will not back down from what I say. I might, back off and say, wait a minute, I misinterpreted something that he told me, but I will never, ever, say that he did not tell me something. I do operate in the prophetic. I know I have the gift of prophecy. I'm not sure about whether or not I'm a prophet. I kind of feel that I am because of, just a bunch of different things. But until I talk one-on-one with someone who is more knowledgeable than I am, I will not just come out and say I'm a prophet. I do accept that as a job if that's what God has given me. But just because of different things that have went on, I do know that I operate in the prophetic. God has put me in that position. There are a couple of things that I would like for you to write down because I use the complete Jewish Bible. So everything that I do is Hebrew related. So I use those terms as much as possible. Sometimes I slip back into the old Christian words, but I try very hard not to. But Adonai Elohim, you will hear me say that. That means the Lord God. And also write down Adonai means my Lord. And Adonai is Adonai. Elohim is Elohim. And you'll also hear me say Adonai Zvaot. Zvaot is Tzva''O''T. That means Lord of Heaven's armies. So there's a very significant reason whenever his name is used different places. I also use the word Hashem. That means the name. And Hashem is usually used a lot for the place of the YHVH. In Hebrew, that's Yud Hey Vav Hey. Because nobody can pronounce that name. Christians try to pronounce Jehovah and Jehovah, and both of those are wrong. Nobody really knows how to pronounce his name. So, and I've been taught that we don't even need to be trying to say it. So, so the first thing that I want to start off with is I have been seeing the number 717 a lot. If you're for the last month or so, and my birthday is 717. So I was like, well, I know that you're not trying to tell me something about my birthday. It's just me. I'm all singled out for my birthday. I knew that wasn't it, but I couldn't figure out what it was. And I would like hear it in my dreams. I would see it in my dreams. And a lot of times whenever I would look at my watch or a clock, and it would be around the 7 o'clock hour, the time would be 7:17. So I knew there was something going on. So I've been trying to figure out what it was. I've talked to God a lot about it, and I kept be referred back to the seventh month and the seventh day of the month, and specifically Noah's flood. Well, before I went into that, I looked up some other things as well. So I looked at the Parsha for that week and specifically that day. So that's the reading that was taking place on that. The Parsha is the reading for that's what the Hebrews read for the week. And in the Parshas, each weekly Parsha is divided into 7 sections. So there's a section for each day. And each day, each week corresponds with actually what's going on in the week, in that week. And each day reading is, will let you know what's going on in that day. So it's kind of like, a horoscope. It's God's horoscope, so you can trust it. So the reading for that week would be the reading for 7:11 through 7:17, and that parsha was Parsha 44, Devarim, which is Deuteronomy, which Devarim means words, and that was chapters 1:1 to 3:22. The Haftarah, which was the prophetic, the prophets, was Isaiah 1:27, and the Brit Hadashah, which is the New Testament reading that corresponds along with this, is John 15:1 to 11, and Hebrews 3:7 to 4:11. And the reading that was specifically for the 17th was Deuteronomy 3:15 to 22. And so I've written that down, and this is what it says. I gave Gilad to Mahir and to the Ravani and the Gadi. I gave the territory from Gilad to the Arnon Valley, with the middle of the valley as the border, as far as the Yabok River, which is the border with the people of Ammon. The Arabah too, the Yarden, which is the Jordan, being its border, from Kinneret to the Sea of the Arabah, the Dead Sea, at the foot of the slopes of Pisgah to the east. At that time I gave you this order: Adonai your God has given you this land to possess, that all of you who are fit to fight must cross over, armed, ahead of your brothers, the people of Israel. Your wives, your little ones, your livestock, I know you have much livestock, will stay in your cities which I have given you, until Adonai allows your brothers to rest, as he has allowed you, and they too take possession of the land Adonai your God has given them on the west side of the Jordan. At that point you will return, each man to his own possession, which I have given you. Also at that time I gave this order to Yehoshua: Your eyes have seen everything that Adonai your God has done to these 2 kings. Adonai will do the same to all the kingdoms you encounter when you cross over. Don't be afraid of them, because Adonai your God will fight on your behalf. And that was Moses talking. And so all this is corresponding to what is going on in our country. And you can see a relation as things progress. So we are, at that point we're getting ready to cross over and take our possession of our country. On Monday, July the 26th, we crossed the Jordan to take our country back from the evil, wicked leaders. And so but anyway, so I went on into, that's what I got from that. And then I went on to the actual flood, and God told me to read the flood. And so to write it separate, so write the beginning, all the steps of the beginning of the flood, and then all the steps at the end of the flood. So, the beginning of the flood was Genesis 7:6-24, and the end of the flood is Genesis 8:1 to 16. And so I want you to pay really close attention to this stuff, okay? And I didn't write down all of these, all the verses. I just wrote down the relevant verses out of this. Noah was 600 years old when the flood began. They entered the ark. In verse 7, it says, "And it came to pass after 7 days that the waters of the flood were upon the earth." And if you look back into the story of the flood, it says that it was in the first month. So the first month would have been Tishri, and the orders of the months before the Exodus took place, which started with creation, they go Tishri, Heshvan, Kislev, Tevet, Shavat, Adar, Nisan, Iyar, Sivan, Tammuz, Av, and Elul. So, and then whenever the Passover happened, God said we're going to start numbering the months. And I'm not quite I'm still kind of confused about the differences, but I do know that they still use the difference of the months. So, so when you're counting it from the Passover being the first month, then it goes Nisan, Iyar, Sivan, Tammuz, Av, Elul, Tishri, Heshvan, Kislev, Tevet, Shavat, and Adar. But for this, we have to go by, Tishri being the first month. So then it says in verse 11, in the second month, the 17th day of the month, so that would be the 17th day of Heshvan, the same day were all the fountains of the great deep broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened. So that would have been Heshvan 17, and Heshvan 17 for the year 2020 was November 4th, 2020, which was the day after the election. And then verse 12, and the rain was upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. So that would have been from Heshvan 17 to Kislev 23. So for the year 2020, that would have been November the 4th, 2020 to December the 9th, 2020. And then verse 24, and the waters prevailed upon the earth 150 days. So at the end of the 150 days was Nisan 17. So that would have been March 30th of 2021. And I'm going to show you how all this ties in a minute. And then the end of the flood, this starts in chapter 8, verse 1. But I'm starting with verse 3. And the waters returned from off the earth continually. And after the end of the 150 days, the waters were abated. verse 4. And the ark rested in the 7th month on the 17th day of the month upon the mountains of Ararat. So the 7th month is the month of Nisan, so the Nisan 17. Verse 5. And the waters decreased continually until the 10th month. And the 10th month was the month of Tammuz. In the 10th month, on the first day of the month, were the tops of the mountains seen. And so verse 6. And it came to pass at the end of 40 days, which if you count from the first day of Tammuz until for 40 days, that takes you to Av, 10th day of Av. And it came to pass at the end of 40 days that Noah opened the window of the ark which he had made. Verse 10. And he stayed yet other 7 days, which takes you up to Av 17. And again he sent forth the dove out of the ark. And then in verse 12. So, we know that the dove came back. And he stayed yet other 7 days and sent forth the dove, which returned not again unto him anymore. So that would have been Av 24. Then verses 13 to 16. And it came to pass in the 601st year, in the first month, the first day of the month, that's Tishri 1, the waters were dried up from off the earth, and Noah removed the covering of the ark and looked, and behold, the face of the ground was dry. And in the 2nd month, which is the month of Heshwan, on the 27th day of the month, Heshwan 27, was the earth dried. And God spake unto Noah, saying, Go forth of the ark, thou and thy wife, and thy sons' wives with thee. So the dates, those dates correspond to now. So June 11th was the first day of Tammuz, 2021. July 26th was the 17th day of Av. September the 7th was the first day of Tishri, or will be the first day of Tishri. And November the 2nd of 2021 will be the 27th day of Heshvan, which is election day. So God He always does things in the same order. And I never caught that until Robin Bullock was saying that. And he said that you can read Revelations backwards, and that's the same as reading Genesis forwards. And I looked, and sure enough, it does. And even the flood, God showed this to me last night whenever I was watching a movie, that He was creating the earth again, basically. So He's doing like the whole creation thing again. So, and if you look and you follow, because the beginning of creation started in Genesis 1. The earth was dark, and it was, from all the wickedness. Water was over the face of the earth. Well, in the flood, where was the water? There was water on the face of the earth. And then He said, let there be light, and He put animals. Well, He already had all the animals on the ark. And then He made humans, and the humans were, He already had the animals and the humans on the ark. But before He puts the animals and the humans, there had to be vegetation. So He did not let the animals and the humans out of the ark until the vegetation was there to take care of them. So it took a whole year from the time it started to the time it ended. And actually, when you're reading, if you look at Genesis 8:1 and compare it, Genesis 8:1 to 16, and compare it to Genesis 7 to 24, you can see that the flood ended. The steps it took to end it was the same steps it took to begin it. So it was just kind of like repeating itself like that. But Hank Kinnaman has said that God told him that that it would take to the end of the year for all this to be over with. And Timothy Dixon has said that he had dreams of President Trump being back in the White House in August. And so Rosh Hashanah starts, the beginning of the actual new year, because the correct years are the Hebrew calendar. That's September 7th. So I still do not think that whenever he told Hank that it was going to be to the end of the year, I don't think he meant to the end of 2021. So I was first thinking there would be by Rosh Hashanah, September 7th. But then seeing the flood and what he's telling me there, I'm thinking, because he does things the same way. So it would be a year from the time that the election was stolen until the election time again. I might be wrong on that, but I still think, I don't know, nobody knows exactly when this will be over with. But based on what I've seen, there is some significance to this story and what's going on. Excuse me. It may be that Trump is in the White House, because back in August. And if he does, that would be like right there at the end of August. If it's taken to the end of the year, the end of the 5781 year, then that would be then. And then, but whatever else needs to be cleaned up and everything will take until November. That's what I'm kind of thinking. You go to God and you ask Him to show you, what the correct interpretation of this is. Because that's just the way that I'm taking it. I'm still learning. I know when God's telling me something, and sometimes I get the interpretation exactly right on the spot. Other times I'm there in the ballpark. I've just not hit the home run yet. But and then another thing that happened, and this is where I think everybody's going to be mad at me about, was I had a very weird weekend this weekend. So the last time it happened was on July the 4th, and that day I was with some friends and family, and I was ignored whenever we went to see the fireworks. We went to see the fireworks and have a cookout, and I was ignored. And I felt the presence of demons there, and I thought I knew how God wanted me to handle it, and I did not consult God about how to handle it, which I should have. So I was being ignored. These people were not trying. They did not have this thought in their mind, oh, well, I'm just going to ignore her. It wasn't like that. But God was moving things around, and I wasn't catching it. That I was being ignored because I was being left. I needed that quiet time because He wanted me to go and pray and to deal with these demons and stuff. But I need to first pray to Him and ask Him how to do it. And I didn't. So it wound up blowing up in my face. And I got hurt really deeply. And I didn't feel hurt towards these people. Because something really bad did wind up happening because of this. And I wasn't, and then whenever they saw me crying, they were coming to me, well, what's wrong? And they were, well, we're sorry about blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, it's not that. It goes deeper than that. I said, I can't explain it. It goes deeper than that. And so when the fireworks started, I actually cried, and I got this deep, gut-wrenching cry. The only time I've ever cried like that and felt that kind of deep hurt, anguish, was whenever my little 15-month-old granddaughter died. And so I get home, and and I finally stopped. I said, I just need to talk to God about this. I need to talk to God about this. So, and I said, and finally, when I got home, I was, got to myself, and I said, God, I don't know who's in the right and who's in the wrong. Show me what happened tonight. And then He put a picture of my mind of something, and I'm not going to say it on here, because it could get back to the people. And if they want to come to me and ask me, I'll tell them. But I don't want to hurt them in any way. But anyways, so he showed me that this, he showed me a picture of what happened, and that's when I realized that it was, because in the demons, I didn't deal with the demons right, and then He told me, I gave you chance after chance after chance of quiet time, and you did not take it, and because you did not take it, then that's what caused this other thing to happen. And so my deep anguish crying was my soul crying, knowing that what I had done. And I asked forgiveness from the person that I caused this to happen to, and that person did forgive me. I said, it's my fault that you did what you did. But anyway, so moving on from that. So this weekend, I've been ignored. I was ignored Friday, and I thought, I've not felt anything going on. And so I said, God, I'm not quite sure, but I'm not feeling anything. Is there something that I'm supposed to be praying about? What am I supposed to be, I don't know. And I do not want to repeat of July the 4th. So just help me, guide me along with it. Show me and guide me along. And so I didn't really get anything that night. But then the next day, being ignored again. And I said, okay, God, I'm definitely sure something is going on. I don't know what I'm supposed to be praying about, what I'm supposed to be reading. What am I supposed to do? And I said, and again, I do not want to repeat of July the 4th. Guide me, show me. And I wasn't getting anything. And I think the reason why I didn't get anything the night before is that even though I was trying to relax my mind, I don't think I really relaxed it enough. So I just got out some cards, and I was playing cards. I'm playing solitaire. Made up my own rules about, solitaire and stuff, to kind of like let my mind go blank, so that I could hear from him. And so, and he told me to go just start reading and to pick up where my reading I was at. And so reading started in chapter 41 of Jeremiah. So I'm trying to read like all the way through the Bible. And so I went to chapter 41, and when I read into chapter 42, that's when he pointed out to me that this is what this chapter is relating to our leaders and different people, which I'm fixing to go into, and I need to get this out. So I did it, and whenever I had written down and everything, then I was not ignored anymore. So, and I'm kind of like, I'm going to do this in the order that he was showing me, so it might go off a little bit. So this is Jeremiah chapter 42. And I'm going to go in and read this now. This is a warning to everyone, but specifically those who are following the Democratic Party, whether you're a leader or you're just an everyday little peon like me. And if you have a problem with this, you need to go talk to God about it. But this is chapter 42. And if you'll think about our country today and our leaders and stuff, you'll see the connection. Then all the military commanders, Johanan the son of Kareah, Yezaniah the son of Hoshea, and all the people, from the least to the greatest, approached and said to Yirmiyahu the prophet, that's Jeremiah, I beg you, approve our request. Pray for us to Adonai, your God, for all of this remnant. For while once we were numerous, only a few of us are left, as you can see. Pray that Adonai, your God, will tell us what direction to take and what to do. Yirmiyahu the prophet said to them, I hear you. All right, I will pray to Adonai, your God, as you have asked. And whatever Adonai answers you, I will tell you. I will withhold nothing from you. They said to Yirmiyahu, may Adonai be a true and faithful witness against us if we fail to do any part of what Adonai our God says. We are dispatching you to him, so that things will go well with us, as we heed what Adonai our God says. 10 days later, the word of Adonai came to Yirmiyahu. So he called Johanan, the son of Kareah, all the military commanders with him, and all the people from the least to the greatest, and said to them, you sent me to present your request to Adonai, the God of Israel. This is what he says. If you will stay in this land, then I will build you up, not pull you down. I will plant you and not uproot you. For I am relenting from the calamity I inflicted on you. Don't be afraid of the king of Babel, of whom you are afraid. Don't be afraid of him, says Adonai, for I am with you to save you and to rescue you from his power. I will take pity on you, so that he will take pity on you and cause you to return to your own land. But if you say, we will not stay in this land, thereby not heeding what Adonai your God is saying, and instead say, no, we will go to the land of Egypt, because there we will not see war, or hear the shofar sounding its alarm, or be short of food. So we'll stay there. Then hear what Adonai says, remnant of Yehudah, which is Judah. This is what Adonai Zvaot, the God of Israel, says. If you are determined to go to Egypt and stay there, the sword of which you are afraid will overtake you there in the land of Egypt, and the famine of which you are afraid will pursue you relentlessly there in Egypt, and there you will die. This is how it will be for all the people determined to go to Egypt and stay there. They will die by sword, famine, and plague. None of them will remain or escape the disaster that I will bring upon them. For here is what Adonai Zvaot, the God of Israel, says. Just as my anger and fury were poured out on the inhabitants of Jerusalem, which is Jerusalem, so likewise my fury will be poured out on you if you go to Egypt, so that you will become an object of condemnation, astonishment, cursing, and reproach. And you will see this place no more. Adonai has spoken concerning you, remnant of Yehudah. Don't go to Egypt. You know for a fact that I have given you fair warning today, for you have been behaving deceitfully against your own interests. You sent me to Adonai your God, saying, pray for us to Adonai our God. Tell us everything Adonai our God says, and we will do it. Today I have told it to you, but you haven't heeded any part of what Adonai your God gave me to tell you. Therefore, know for a fact that you will die by sword, famine, and plague in the place where you want to go and live. And so this is what God told me. All the military commanders, Yohanan, the son of Karyat, Bezaniah, the son of Hashiah, and all the people, from the least to the greatest, are the Democratic politicians and all those who are still following the Democratic Party. And he also asked a question. So notice the spelling of Democrat and demon both start with D-E-M-O. Is that a coincidence? I'm not saying that they're demons, but this is just what God told me. The king of Babel are the rulers who are trying to scare you into staying on their side. The land of Egypt is a peaceful myth they will try to use to trick you into thinking that their way will keep you safe from God's wrath. It is a mirage in a desert. Some people listening to this don't believe anything I am saying. They either think I don't really hear God, or I don't have a gift of prophecy, or they don't believe He will bring judgment. For those of you who think this way, I'm going to read verses 19 to 22 again. Adonai has spoken concerning you, remnant of Yehudah. Don't go to Egypt. You know for a fact that I have given you fair warning today, for you have been behaving deceitfully against your own interests. You sent me to Adonai your God, saying, pray for us to Adonai our God. Tell us everything Adonai our God says, and we will do it. Today I have told it to you, but you haven't heeded any part of what Adonai your God gave me to tell you. Therefore, know for a fact that you will die by sword, famine, and plague in the place where you want to go and live. So those of you who do not pay attention to this warning that I have given you today, you will die by sword, famine, and plague. Now, that's I'm not saying that you will literally, somebody else will literally try out to kill you. They might. That might actually happen. You might actually physically die. But you will suffer. God will see to you that you do. He will bring judgment against you for not listening to what I am telling you. If you don't choose to follow God's anointed President Trump, who is the rightful president and will be back in power soon, this is what God told me, and you try to remove him, then all these things will happen to you. He will be back in the White House before the end of 2021. And so, this was given to me yesterday, which is the 22nd, July 31st, 2021, which is the 22nd day of the month of Av, 5781. And the reading for that week was Eikev, E-I-K-E-V, and he wants me to go read this to you as well. So, Eikev means because. The reading for that was July 25th through 31st. And that reading was Deuteronomy chapter 7:12 to chapter 11:25. And no, that is not the end of the reading that you're going to listen to. I will put in here, but this is lots. I've still got more. I told you it's going to be a long video. Because you're listening to these rulings, and this is to those who are following God and listening to what I told you, or that you do decide to turn from the wicked rulers and start following the righteous. Because you're listening to these rulings, keeping and obeying them, Adonai your God will keep with you the covenant and mercy that he swore to your ancestors. And our ancestors are, that he's referred to here, is our forefathers of this country. He will love you, bless you, and increase your numbers. He will also bless the fruit of your body and the fruit of your ground, your grain, wine, olive oil, and the young of your cattle and sheep. In the land he swore to your ancestors that he would give you, you will be blessed more than all other peoples. There will not be a sterile male or female among you. And the same with your livestock. Adonai will remove all illness from you. He will not afflict you with any of Egypt's dreadful diseases, which you have known. Instead, he will lay them on those who hate you. You are to devour, and that doesn't mean eat. You are to devour all the peoples that Adonai, your God, hands over to you. Show them no pity, and do not serve their gods, because that will become a trap for you. If you think to yourselves, these nations outnumber us, so how can we dispossess them? Nevertheless, you are not to be afraid of them. You are to remember well what Adonai your God did to Pharaoh and all of Egypt. So, in other words, he's telling us that don't be afraid of, these democratic, evil, wicked leaders that we have. Because you're thinking, they're so big and scary, there's so many of them. It doesn't matter. God is for us, and if God is for us, who can be against us? He can take care of everyone. So don't be scared. What you need to be scared of is what is God's judgment will be on you for not following his ways. The great ordeals which you yourself saw and the signs, wonders, strong hand, and outstretched arm by which Adonai your God brought you out. Adonai will do the same to all the peoples of whom you are afraid. Moreover, Adonai your God will send a hornet among them until those who are left and those who hide themselves perish ahead of you. You are not to be frightened of them, because Adonai your God is there with you, a God great and fearsome. Adonai your God will expel those nations ahead of you little by little. You can't put an end to them all at once, or the wild animals will become too numerous for you. Nevertheless, Adonai your God will give them over to you, sending one disaster after another upon them until they have been destroyed. And if you'll notice, there is disaster after disaster coming to these wicked leaders. You are to burn up completely the carved statues of their gods. Don't be greedy for the silver or gold on them. Don't take it with you, or you will be trapped by it. For it is abhorrent to Adonai your God. Don't bring something abhorrent into your house, or you will share in the curse that is on it. Instead, you are to detest it completely, loathe it utterly, for it is set apart for destruction. And that means like these pictures and statues of Buddha and these totem poles, which you get like from these Indian reservations or whatever. These dream catchers, these masks from these, like you go to a distant land, the ones that come to the top of my head are Africa. I'm sure there's other places, but that's the ones that come to my mind. And these people that are living, that are worshiping these other gods, and they wear those masks in their ceremonies and stuff, and you get one and you bring it back. You're not to do that. You're bringing the curse on. Yes, there's a curse on those things, and you're bringing that curse back on you, and you're actually bringing those demons back into your home. So you don't need to have anything to do with that. Chapter 8. All the mitzvot I am giving you today, you are to take care of. Let me start over again. All the mitzvot, which are the commandments, I am giving you today, you are to take care to obey, so that you will live, increase your numbers, enter and take possession of the land Adonai swore about your ancestors. You are to remember everything the way in which Adonai led you these 40 years in the desert, humbling and testing you in order to know what was in your heart, whether you would obey his mitzvot or not. He humbled you, allowing you to become hungry, and then fed you with manna, which neither you nor your ancestors had ever known, to make you understand that a person does not live on food alone, but on everything that comes from the mouth of Adonai. And we know that that's what Jesus said to Satan whenever Satan was tempting him in the wilderness. He said, a person does not live on food alone, but on everything that comes from the mouth of Adonai. During these 40 years, the clothing you were wearing didn't grow old, and your feet didn't swell up. Think deeply about it. Adonai was disciplining you, just as a man disciplines his child. So obey the mitzvot of Adonai your God, living as he directs and fearing him. For Adonai your God is bringing you into a good land, a land with streams, springs, and water welling up in the depths and valleys and on hillsides. It is a land of wheat and barley, grapevines, fig trees, and pomegranates, a land of olive oil and honey, a land where you will eat food in abundance and lack nothing in it, a land where the stones contain iron and the hills can be mined for copper. So you will eat and be satisfied, and you will bless Adonai your God for the good land he has given you. Now these are blessings that are going to come to those who have rejected the Democrats. But those of you who still follow them, you're not going to enjoy this. Verse 11, and starting verse 11 is actually what was for Monday the 26th. So what I just read you was for Sunday the 25th. This was for Monday the 26th. Be careful not to forget Adonai your God by not obeying his mitzvot, rulings, and regulations that I'm giving you today. Otherwise, after you have eaten and are satisfied, built fine houses and lived in them, and increased your herds, flocks, silver, gold, and everything else you own, you will become proud-hearted, forgetting Adonai your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, where you lived as slaves, who led you through the vast and fearsome desert with its poisonous snakes, scorpions, and waterless, thirsty ground, who brought water out of flint rock for you, who fed you in the desert with manna, unknown to your ancestors, all the while humbling and testing you in order to do you good in the end. You will think to yourself, my own power and the strength of my own hand have gotten me this wealth. No, you are to remember Adonai your God, because it is he who has given you the power to get wealth, in order to confirm his covenant, which he swore to your ancestors, as is happening even today. If you forget Adonai your God, follow other gods, and serve and worship them, and this is meaning following the Democrats, I am warning you in advance today that you will certainly perish. You will perish just like the nations that Adonai is causing to perish ahead of you, because you will not have heeded the voice of Adonai your God. Listen, Israel, you are to cross the Jordan today, to go in and dispossess nations greater and stronger than you, great cities fortified up to the sky. So on the 26th we actually crossed over. Whether we really actually realize it or not, we did. Because there's all this stuff is going on spiritually, and you can see some of it happen in the natural world, but we're not seeing all of it yet, but yeah, it's happening. A people great and tall, the Anakim, who you know about, and of whom you have heard it said, who could stand before the descendants of Anak? Therefore, understand today that Adonai, your God, will himself cross ahead of you as a devouring fire. He will destroy them and bring them down before you. Thus will you drive them out and cause them to perish quickly, as Adonai has said to you. So starting verse 4 begins the one for the Tuesday, the 27th. Don't think to yourself, after your God has pushed them out ahead of you, it is to reward my righteousness that Adonai has brought me in to take possession of this land. No, it is because these nations have been so wicked that Adonai is driving them out ahead of you. It is not because of your righteousness or because your heart is so upright that you go in to take possession of their land, but to punish the wickedness of these nations that Adonai your God is driving them out ahead of you, and also to confirm the word which Adonai swore to your ancestors, Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. Therefore, understand that it is not for your righteousness that Adonai your God has given you this good land to possess. For you are a stiff-necked people. Remember, don't forget how you made Adonai your God angry in the desert. From the day you left the land of Egypt till you arrived at this place, you have been rebelling against Adonai. Also in Horeb, you made Adonai angry. Adonai was angry enough with you to destroy you. I had gone up the mountain to receive the stone tablets, the tablets on which was written the covenant Adonai had made with you. I stayed on the mountain 40 days and nights without eating food or drinking water. Then Adonai gave me the 2 stone tablets inscribed by the finger of God, and on them was written every word Adonai had said to you from the fire on the mountain the day of the assembly. Yes, after 40 days and nights, Adonai gave me the 2 stone tablets, the tablets of the covenant. Then Adonai said to me, get up and hurry down from here, because your people, whom you led out of Egypt, have become corrupt. So quickly have they turned aside from the way I ordered them to follow. They have made themselves a metal image. Moreover, Adonai said to me, I have seen this people, and what a stiff-necked people they are. Let me alone, so that I could put an end to them and blot out their name from under heaven. I will make a nation out of you, a nation bigger and stronger than they. I came down from the mountain. The mountain was blazing fire, and the 2 tablets of the covenant were in my 2 hands. I looked, and there, you had sinned against Adonai your God. You had made yourselves a metal calf. You had turned aside quickly from the way Adonai had ordered you to follow. I seized the 2 tablets, threw them out of my hands, and broke them before your eyes. And I was watching Repeat Judaism and Aliyah a Day with Rabbi Mordecai Griffin. It's awesome on YouTube. And he was saying that the first tablets God had hewn out from his throne. Then I went on to verse 18. Then I fell down before Adonai as I had the first time, for 40 days and nights, during which time I neither ate food nor drank water. All because of the sin you committed by doing what was evil in the sight of Adonai, and thus provoking him. I was terrified that because of how angry Adonai was at you, of how heatedly displeased he was, that he would destroy you. But Adonai listened to me at that time too. In addition, Adonai was very angry with Aharon and would have destroyed him. But I prayed for Aharon, which is Aaron, also at the same time. I took your sin, the calf you had made, and burned it up in the fire. Beat it to pieces and ground it up still smaller until it was as fine as dust. And I threw its dust into the stream coming down from the mountain. And that's, God just told me, that's what we need to do with our sin, is that we need to beat it to pieces. We need to burn the fire and beat it to pieces and grind it up still small until it is as fine as dust. And then throw dust into the stream. Which is something that we do on, particularly, we do on Rosh Hashanah, is we cast our sins in the stream. Again, at Taberah, Massa, and Kibbutz HaTavah, you made Adonai angry. And when Adonai sent you off from Kadesh Barnea by saying, go up and take possession of the land I have given you, you rebelled against the order of Adonai your God. You neither trusted him nor heeded what he said. You have been rebelling against Adonai from the day I first knew you. So I fell down before Adonai for those 40 days and nights, and I lay there, because Adonai had said he would destroy you. I prayed to Adonai. I said, Adonai, Elohim, don't destroy your people, your inheritance. You redeemed them through your greatness. You brought them out of Egypt with a strong hand. Remember your servants Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Don't focus on the stubbornness of this people, or on their wickedness, or on their sin. Otherwise, the land you brought out of will say, it is because Adonai wasn't able to bring them into the land he promised them, and because he hated them, that he has brought them out to kill them in the desert. But in fact, they are your people, your inheritance, whom you brought out by your great power and your outstretched arm. to chapter 10, starting with verse 1, begins the reading for Wednesday. At that time, Adonai said to me, cut yourself 2 stone tablets like the first ones. Come up to me on the mountain and make yourself an ark of wood. I will inscribe on the tablets the words that were on the first tablets, which you broke, and you are to put them in the ark. So I made an ark of acacia wood, and cut 2 stone tablets like the first, then climbed the mountain with the 2 tablets in my hand. He inscribed the tablets with the same inscription as before, the 10 words which Adonai proclaimed to you from the fire on the mountain the day of the assembly. And Adonai gave them to me. I turned, came down the mountain, and put the tablets in the ark I had made, and there they remained, as Adonai ordered me. The people of Israel traveled from the wells of Bnei Yaakon to Moserah, where Harden died and was buried. Eleazar his son took his place, serving the office of Cohen. From there they traveled to Gilgal, and from Gilgal to Yophthah, a region with running streams. At that time Adonai set apart the tribe of Levi to carry the ark for the covenant of Adonai, and to stand before Adonai to serve him and to bless in his name, as they still do today. This is why Levi has no share or inheritance with his brothers. Adonai is his inheritance, as Adonai your God has said to him. I stayed on the mountain 40 days and nights as previously, and Adonai listened to me that time too. Adonai would not destroy you. Then Adonai said to me, get up and go on your way at the head of the people, so they can enter and take possession of the land I swore to their ancestors that I would give them. Starting in verse 12 is the reading for Thursday. So now, Israel, all that Adonai your God asks from you is to fear Adonai your God, follow all his ways, love him, and serve Adonai your God with all your heart and all your being, to obey for your own good the mitzvah and regulations of Adonai which I am giving you today. See, the sky, the heaven beyond the sky, the earth, and everything on it all belong to Adonai your God. Only Adonai took enough pleasure in your ancestors to love them and choose their descendants after them, yourselves, above all peoples, as he still does today. Therefore, circumcise the foreskin of your heart, and don't be stiff-necked any longer. For Adonai your God is God of gods and Lord of lords, the great, mighty, and awesome God, who has no favorites and accepts no bribes. He secures justice for the orphan and the widow. He loves the foreigner, giving him food and clothing. Therefore, you are to love the foreigner, since you are foreigners in the land of Egypt. You are to fear Adonai your God, serve him, cling to him, and swear by his name. He is your praise, and he is your God, who has done for you these great and awesome things that you have seen with your own eyes. Your ancestors went down into Egypt with only 70 people, but now Adonai your God has made your numbers as many as the stars in the sky. Therefore, chapter 11, therefore you are to love Adonai your God and always obey his commission, regulations, rulings, and mitzvot. Today it is you I am addressing, not your children, who haven't known or experienced the discipline of Adonai your God. His greatness, his strong hand, his outstretched arm, his signs and his actions which he did in Egypt for Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, and to his entire country. They didn't experience what he did to Egypt's army, horses and chariots. How Adonai overwhelmed them with the water of the sea of Suf as they were pursuing you, so that they remained destroyed to this day. They didn't experience what he kept doing for you in the desert until you arrived at this place, or what he did to Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, the descendant of Reuben. How the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them up, along with their households, tents, and everything, and every living thing in their company, there in front of all Israel. But you have seen with your own eyes all these great deeds of Adonai. Therefore, you are to keep every mitzvah I have given you today, so that you will be strong enough to go in and take possession of the land you are crossing over to conquer, and so that you will live long in the land, and I swore to give to your ancestors and their descendants, a land flowing with milk and honey. Starting in verse 10, it begins with the reading for Friday, with July 30th. For the land you are entering in order to take possession of isn't like the land of Egypt. There you would sow your seed and have to use your feet to operate its irrigation system, as in a vegetable garden. The land you are crossing over to take possession of is a land of hills and valleys that soaks up water when rain falls from the sky. It is a land your Adonai your God cares for. The eyes of Adonai your God are always on it, from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. So if you listen carefully to my mitzvah, which I am giving you today, love Adonai your God and serve him with all your heart and all your being. Then, says Adonai, I will give your land its rain at the right seasons, include the early fall rains and the late spring rains, so that you can gather in your wheat, your wine, and olive oil. And I will give your fields grass for your livestock, with the result that you will eat and be satisfied. But be careful not to let yourselves be seduced, so that you turn aside, serving other gods and worshiping them. If you do, the anger of Adonai will blaze up against you. He will shut up the sky, so there will be no rain. The ground will not yield its produce, and you will quickly pass away from the good land Adonai has given you. Therefore, you are to store up these words of mine in your heart and in all your being. Tie them on your hand as a sign. Put them at the front of a headband around your forehead. And if you'll notice that in the book of Revelation, that it says that the mark of the beast will be on your arm or your hand and on your forehead. So it's just copying what God was just doing. So the mark, the actual mark, will be something similar to God's mark. It's not going to be like a cutting in your hand or anything like that. It's going to come in a way that you won't realize it unless you're really paying close attention until it's too late. Start of verse 17. Teach them carefully to your children, talking about them when you sit at home, when you're traveling on the road, when you lie down, and when you get up. And write them on the door frames of your house and on your gates, so that you and your children will live long on the land Adonai swore to your ancestors that he would give them for as long as there is sky above the earth. And this was Saturday's reading. Starting at verse 22. For if you will take care to obey all these mitzvot I am giving you, to do them, to love Adonai your God, to follow all his ways, and to cling to him, then Adonai will expel all these nations ahead of you, and you will dispossess nations bigger and stronger than you are. Wherever the sole of your foot steps will be yours. Your territory will extend in the desert to Lebanon, and from the river, the Euphrates River, the western sea. No one will be able to withstand you. Adonai your God will place the fear and dread of you on all the land you stepped on, as he told you. And the related readings are Isaiah 49:14 to 51:3, and Matthew 4:1 to 11, Luke 4:1 to 13, and James 5:7 to 11. And if you think that God will not that he will let He'll give all these good things that's going to be taking place to the people who are following him, and those who are not will not be able to take that just because everything's going good for the people who are following him, that he will say that then you won't be punished, and that you will not be able to enjoy those good things. If you think that will not happen, you're seriously mistaken, because you could go back in the book of Exodus and see when these plagues were going on. The Egyptians were being punished, and we're getting all these plagues, but the Israelites, they were living in the land of Goshen, and God did not, which is a part of Egypt, none of these plagues came on any of those people. So they were. So you will be able to see, you will see the good things going on, but you won't be able to enjoy any of it. And one thing that just came to my mind, and this might be as I was reading this last little bit, was and I'm not sure if it's just something that I was thinking, or maybe this is something that God is telling me, but that there could be 2 end years that's going on here. So there's the end of the year where Trump comes back and is back in office. He comes back in office, or first few days of September, right before Rosh Hashanah. The first day of Tishri, which is first day of Tishri, the Jewish New Year. There's actually the actual, well, everybody says it's the Jewish year. It's actually the New Year of creation, because the first day of Tishri is the first day that man was created. So September 7th, 5782 will be exactly 5,782 years from the day that man was created. So it's not just Jewish, it's everybody. But so there's that, and then the other end year would be take us to the beginning of November with the election, to election day. So that this will take that long from time that Trump gets into office, takes the Trump seat again, until he gets all this stuff straightened out again. And this just came to my mind as well. That's when he took office. He was elected in November 2016, but he didn't actually take control until, was it January 20th, I think? Anyways, in January of 2017. So he took from that January about as long. So we're looking at like 2-3 months. And so it took him about 2 or 3 months to get, all this mess cleaned up from where our country, a lot of our previous leaders has screwed us up. So so that could be 2 different end years. Like I was talking about, we're taking to the end of the year. could be talking about, two different, take them to the end of the year for this one thing, and to the end of the actual year to put the rightful eagle back in, but taking to the end of the year that the eldest got started to get everything all straightened out, and where we have, abundance and, our gas prices drop again, and, we got jobs going, and, this whole mess that they managed to do to get that straight. So that could be it. I'm not sure, but that's possible. Okay, so now the reading for this week, which begins August the 1st, and unfortunately, when I'm recording this, it is August the 1st of 2021. But I am recording it in a place where I have no internet, so I cannot upload it. So when it is uploaded, it'll be August the 2nd. So it begins. It's Parashah 47, and it is Reah, which means sea. It's R-E, apostrophe E-H, and that is reading for that is Deuteronomy 11:26 to 16:17. And one thing that in the book, chapter 8, Deuteronomy 8:20, it's talking about the nations. Those are the people who are not following God. So that's something that God gave me heard about. And again, I'll call it in chapter 9, verse 1. That would have been where we saw about crossing over the Jordan, take land. You cross over that day. That's the day we did to take over our land, take our land back. So to finish on, so starting in verse 26 of chapter 11. See, I am setting before you today a blessing and a curse. And again, this is the reading for August the 1st, which is a Sunday. See, I am setting before you today a blessing and a curse. The blessing, if you listen to the mitzvot of Adonai your God that I'm giving you today. And the curse, if you don't listen to the mitzvot of Adonai your God, but turn aside from the way I am ordering you today, and follow other gods that you have not known. When Adonai your God brings you into the land you are entering in order to take possession of it, you are to put the blessing on Mount Gerizim and the curse on Mount Ebal. Both are west of the Jordan, in the direction of the sunset, in the land of the Canaani, living in the Arava, across from Gilgal, near the pistachio trees of Moreh. For you are to cross the Jordan to enter and take possession of the land Adonai your God is giving you. You are to own it and live in it, and you are to take care to follow all the laws and rulings I am setting before you today. And those of us who are following God, if we turn our backs on God and say, oh, well, we got all this stuff going, this is what's going to happen to us. We can't just say, oh, I'm following God now, everything's going to go great, and I can do whatever. No, you still got to follow God. Because if you don't, it's going to bring all this stuff on you. Chapter 12. Here are the laws and rulings you are to observe and obey in the land Adonai, the God of your ancestors, has given you to possess as long as you live on earth. You must destroy all the places where the nations you are dispossessing serve their gods, whether on high mountains, on hills, or under some leafy tree. Break down their altars, smash their standing stones to pieces, burn up their sacred poles completely, and cut down the carved images of their gods. Exterminate their name from that place. But you are not to treat Adonai your God this way. Rather, you are to come to place where Adonai your God will put his name. He will choose it from all your tribes, and you will seek out that place, which is where he will live, and go there. You will bring there your burnt offerings, your sacrifices, your tents that you set aside for Adonai, the offerings that you give, the offerings you have vowed, your voluntary offerings, and the firstborn of your cattle and sheep. There you will eat in the presence of Adonai your God, and you will rejoice over everything you set out to do, you and your households, in which Adonai your God has blessed you. You will not do things the way we do them here today, where everyone does whatever in his own opinion seems right, because you haven't yet arrived at the rest and inheritance which Adonai your God has given you. But when you cross the Jordan and live in the land Adonai your God is having you inherit, and he gives you rest from all your surrounding enemies, so that you are living in safety. Verse 11 starts Monday's reading. Then you will bring all that I am ordering you to the place Adonai your God chooses to have his name with. Your burnt offerings, sacrifices, tents, the offering from your hand, and all your best possessions that you dedicate to Adonai, and you will rejoice in the presence of Adonai your God, you, your sons and daughters, your male and female slaves, and the Levy staying with you, inasmuch as he has no share or inheritance with you. And Levy is Levites. Be careful not to offer your burnt offerings just anywhere you see, but do it in the place Adonai will choose in one of your tribal territories. There is where you are to offer your burnt offerings and do everything I order you to do. However, you may slaughter and eat meat wherever you live and whenever you want, and keep it with the degree which Adonai your God has blessed you. The unclean and the clean may eat it, as if it were gazelle or deer, but don't eat the blood. Pour it out on the ground like water. And eating blood means even eating meat that's not fully cooked. So whenever you say, "Oh, I want my steak rare or medium rare or whatever," no, you're eating blood, so you're going against what God said. You are not to eat on your own property the tenth of your grain, new wine, or olive oil that you set aside for Adonai, or the firstborn of your cattle or sheep, or any offering you have vowed, or your voluntary offering, or the offering from your hand. No, you are to eat these in the presence of Adonai your God, in the place Adonai your God will choose. You and your sons, daughters, male and female slaves, and the Levy who is your guest, and you are to rejoice before Adonai your God in everything you undertake to do. As long as you're living on your property, take care not to abandon the Levy. When Adonai your God expands your territory, as he has promised you, and you say, "I want to eat meat," simply because you want to eat meat, then you may eat meat, as much as you want. If the place which Adonai your God chooses to place his name is too far away from you, then you are to slaughter animals from your cattle or sheep, which Adonai has given you, and eat on your own property, as much as you want. Eat it as you would gazelle or deer. The unclean and clean alike may eat it. Just take care not to eat the blood, for the blood is the life, and you are not to eat the life with the meat. Don't eat it, but pour it out on the ground like water. Do not eat it, so that things will go well with you and with your children after you, as you do what Adonai sees as right. And if you think about whenever you're eating that steak rare, that hamburger medium rare, what's coming out of that? You're seeing blood coming out of that. So you are eating blood. Verse 26. Only the things set aside for God which you have, and the vows you have vowed to make, you must take and go to the place which I will choose. Excuse me. There you offer your burnt offerings, the meat and the blood, on the altar of Adonai your God. The blood of your sacrifices is to be poured out on the altar of Adonai your God, and you will eat the meat. Obey and pay attention to everything I am ordering you to do, so that things will go well with you and with your descendants after you forever, as you do what Adonai sees as good and right. And verse 29 starts Tuesday's reading. Oh, and in case you're saying, well, this is just talking about not eating the blood, is just talking about with the sacrifice. No, because if you go back and you read about where he's telling, don't eat this kind of animal and that kind of animal, and that the fish have to have scales and fins. Now that it says in there, do not, and it's not talking about sacrifices in that, because the one thing you know is because you do not offer fish as sacrifices. But we don't sacrifice animals now anyway, but even back then, they did not offer fish as sacrifices. But it says in there, do not eat blood. So starting in verse 29. When Adonai your God has cut off ahead of you the nations you're entering in, let me start over again. When Adonai your God has cut off ahead of you the nations you're entering in order to dispossess, and when you have dispossessed them and are living in their land, be careful, after they have been destroyed ahead of you, not to be trapped into following them, so that you inquire after their gods and ask, how did these nations serve their gods? I want to do the same. You must not do this to Adonai your God, for they have done to their gods all the abominations that Adonai hates. They even burn up their sons and daughters in the fire for their gods. Chapter 13, verse 1, which in the King James is chapter 12, verse 32. Excuse me. Everything I am commanding you, you are to take care to do. Do not add to it or subtract it. If a prophet or someone who gets messages while dreaming arises among you and gives you a sign or wonder, and the sign or wonder comes about as he predicted when he said, let's follow other gods, but you have not known, and let us serve them. You are not to listen to what that prophet or dreamer says, for Adonai your God is testing you in order to find out whether you really do love Adonai your God with all your heart and being. You are to follow Adonai your God, fear him, obey his mitzvot, listen to what he says, serve him, and cling to him. And that prophet or dreamer is to be put to death, because he urged rebellion against Adonai your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt and redeemed you from a life of slavery, in order to seduce you away from the path Adonai your God ordered you to follow. This is how you are to rid your community of this wickedness. If your brother, the son of your mother, or your son, or your daughter, or your wife whom you love, or your friend, who means as much to you as yourself, secretly tries to entice you to go and serve other gods that you haven't known, neither you nor your ancestors, gods of the people surrounding you, whether near or far away from you, anywhere in the world, you are not to consent, and you are not to listen to him, and you must not pity him or spare him, and you may not conceal him. Rather, you must kill him. Your own hand must be the first one on him and putting him to death, and afterwards the hands of all the people. You are to stone him to death. because he has tried to draw you away from Adonai your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the life of slavery. Then all Israel will hear about it and be afraid, so they will stop doing such wickedness as this among yourselves. If you hear told that in one of your cities which Adonai your God has given you to live in, certain scoundrels have sprung up among you and have drawn away the inhabitants of the city by saying, let's go and serve other gods, which you haven't known, then you are to investigate the matter, inquiring and searching diligently. If the rumor is true, if it is confirmed that such detestable things are being done among you, you must put the inhabitants of that city to death with the sword, destroying it completely with the sword, everything in it, including the livestock. Keep all its spoils in an open space and burn the city with its spoils to the ground for Adonai your God. It will remain a tale, which is a mound, forever, and not be built again. None of what has been set apart for destruction is to stay in your hands. Then Adonai will turn from his fierce anger and show you mercy, have compassion on you, and increase your numbers, as he swore to your ancestors, provided you listen to what Adonai says and obey all his mitzvot that I am giving you today, thus doing what Adonai your God sees as right. So what I'm kind of seeing here, could be wrong, because remember I'm still learning a lot, but because this is the reading for Tuesday. So Tuesday will be a day where people are trying to draw us away from God and follow other gods. That's the way I'm reading it. I don't know. We'll wait and see exactly what happens that day. I'm urging you to go back and each day and read and either read this section that I'm telling you for yourself, or come back here and listen each day to what the reading is for that day to help guide you along as to what's happening. Chapter 4, verse 1 begins the reading for Wednesday. You are the prophet You are the people of Adonai your God. You are not to gash yourselves or shave the hair above your foreheads in mourning for the dead, because you are a people set apart as holy for Adonai your God. Adonai your God has chosen you to be his own unique treasure out of all the peoples on the face of the earth. You are not to eat anything disgusting. The animals that you may eat are ox, sheep, goat, deer, gazelle, roebuck, ibex, antelope, oryx, and mountain sheep. Any animal that has a separate hoof that is completely divided, and also chews the cud. These animals you may eat, but you are not to eat those that only chew the cud or only have a divided hoof. For example, the camel, the hare, and the coney are unclean for you, because they chew the cud but don't have a separate hoof. While the pig is unclean for you, because although it has a separate hoof, it doesn't chew the cud. You are not to eat meat from these or touch their carcasses. Of all that lives in the water, you may eat these. Anything in the water that has fins and scales, these you may eat. But whatever lacks fins and scales, you are not to eat. It is unclean for you. You may eat any clean bird, but these you are not to eat. Eagles, vultures, ospreys, kites, any kind of buzzard, any kind of raven, ostriches, screech owls, seagulls, any kind of hawk, little owls, great owls, horned owls, pelicans, barn owls, cormorants, storks, any kind of heron, hoopoes, and bats. All winged swarming creatures are unclean for you. They are not to be eaten. But all clean flying creatures you may eat. You are not to eat any animal that dies naturally, although you may let a stranger stand with you eat it, or sell it to a foreigner, because you are a holy people for Adonai your God. You are not to boil a young animal with its mother's milk. And the doctors will tell you, whenever they're telling you what to eat, what's good for your body, and what's not good for your body, they tell you this exact same list, whether they realize they're doing it or not. Because think about it, pigs, it says don't eat pigs. Well, pork, that's bad for your blood pressure. Seafood, they say not to eat like lobsters and shrimp and crabs and things like that. Why? Because it's bad for your cholesterol. And even going as far as like the eating, going back to eating meats, it's not fully cooked. Even if it's steak or, hamburger or whatever, it doesn't matter what kind of meat it is. If it's not fully cooked, you end up with E. coli, salmonella, all these diseases. So that's the way I take it, that God doesn't want us to eat, just giving out these dietary laws. There might be other reasons, but I'm sure that is one of the reasons. So Thursday's reading begins in verse 22 of chapter 14. Every year you must take 1/10 of everything your seed produces in the field, and eat it in the presence of Adonai your God. In the place where he chooses to have his name, there you will eat the 10th of your grain, new wine and olive oil, and the firstborn of your cattle and sheep, so that you will learn to fear Adonai your God always. But if the distance is too great for you, so that you are unable to transport it, because the place where Adonai chooses to put his name is too far away from you, then, when Adonai your God prospers you, you are to convert it into money. Take the money with you, go to the place which Adonai your God will choose, and exchange the money for anything you want: cattle, sheep, wine, other intoxicating liquor, or anything you please. And you are to eat that in the presence of Adonai your God, and enjoy yourselves, you and your household. But don't neglect the Levy staying with you, because he has no share or inheritance like yours. At the end of every 3 years, you are to take all the tenths of your produce from that year and store it in your towns. Then the Levy, because he has no share or inheritance like yours, along with the foreigner, the orphan, and the widow living in your towns, will come, eat, and be satisfied, so that Adonai your God will bless you in everything your hands produce. Chapter 15, verse 1, begins Friday's reading. At the end of every 7 years, you are to have a Shemitah. Here is how the Shemitah is to be done. Every creditor is to give up what he has loaned to his fellow member of the community. Oh, and also, when Rosh Hashanah starts this year, that's the new Shemitah, the new Jubilee. So it's, so that's whenever all this stuff will happen again. I think it's kind of awesome. So we'll talk about 7 years and every 49th year. So this is a 50th year Jubilee. So it's awesome. Let me start again off verse 1. At the end of every 7 years, you are to have a Shemitah. Here's how the Shemitah is to be done. Every creditor is to give up what he has loaned to his fellow member of the community. He is not to force his neighbor or relative to repay it, because Adonai's time of remission has been proclaimed. You may demand that a foreigner repay his debt, but you are to release your claim on whatever your brother owes you. In spite of this, there will be no one needy among you, because Adonai will certainly bless you in the land which Adonai your God is giving you as an inheritance to possess. If only you will listen carefully to what Adonai your God says and take care to obey all these mitzvot I am giving you today. Yes, Adonai your God will bless you, as he promised you. You will lend money to many nations without having to borrow, and you will rule over many nations without their ruling over you. So that's what our nation's going to be like. If we actually, whenever God, turns us back over, if we actually follow him, this is what will happen for us. Verse 7, if someone among you is needy, one of your brothers, in any of your towns in your land, which Adonai your God has given you, you are not to harden your heart or shut your hand from giving to your needy brother. No, you must open your hand to him and lend him enough to meet his need and enable him to obtain what he wants. Guard yourself against allowing your heart to entertain the mean-spirited thought that because the seventh year, the year of Shemitah is at hand, you will be stingy towards your needy brother and not give him anything. For then he may cry out to Adonai against you, and it will be your sin. Rather, you must give to him, and you are not to be grudging when you give to him. If you do this, Adonai your God will bless you in all your work and everything you undertake, but there will always be poor people in the land. That is why I'm giving you this order. You must open your hand to your poor and needy brother in your land. If your kinsman, a Hebrew man or woman, is sold to you, he is to serve you for 6 years, but in the 7th year you are to set him free. Moreover, when you set him free, don't let him leave empty-handed, but supply him generously from your flock, threshing floor, and winepress, from what Adonai your God has blessed you with. You are to give to him. Remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt, and Adonai your God redeemed you. That is why I am giving you this order today. If he says to you, I don't want to leave you, because he loves you and your household, and because his life with you is a good one, then take an awl and pierce his ear through, right into the door, and he will be your slave forever. Do the same with your female slave. Don't resent it when you set him free, since during his 6 years of service he has been worth twice as much as a hired employee. Then Adonai your God will bless you in everything you do. So starting at verse 19, that begins Saturday's reading, and we're almost through. All the firstborn males in your herd of cattle and in your flock you are to set aside for Adonai your God. You are not to do any work with the firstborn from your herd or shear a firstborn sheep. Each year you and your household are to eat it in the presence of Adonai your God, in the place which Adonai will choose. But if it has a defect, is lame or blind, or has some other kind of fault, you are not to sacrifice it to Adonai your God. Rather, eat it on your own property. The unclean and the clean alike may eat it, like the gazelle or the deer. Just don't eat its blood, but pour it out on the ground like water. Chapter 16, verse 1. Observe the month of Aviv, which is the month of Nisan, and keep Pesach to Adonai your God. For in the month of Aviv, Adonai your God brought you out of Egypt at night. You are to sacrifice the Pesach offering from flock and herd to Adonai your God in the place where Adonai will choose to have his name live. You are not to eat any chametz with it. For 7 days you are to eat with it matzah, the bread of affliction, for you came out of the land of Egypt in haste. Thus you will remember the day you left the land of Egypt as long as you live. No leaven is to be seen with you anywhere in your territory for 7 days. None of the meat from your sacrifice on the first day in the evening is to remain all night until morning. You may not sacrifice the Pesach offering in just any of the towns that Adonai your God has given you, but at the place where Adonai your God will choose to have his name live. There is where you are to sacrifice the Pesach offering. In the evening, when the sun sets, at the time of year that you came out of Egypt, you are to roast it and eat it in the place Adonai your God will choose. In the morning you will return and go to your tents. For 6 days you are to eat matzah. On the 7th day there is to be a festive assembly for Adonai your God. Do not do any kind of work. You are to count 7 weeks. You will begin counting 7 weeks from the time you first put your sickle to the standing grain. You are to observe the festival of Shavuot weeks for Adonai your God with a voluntary offering, which you are to give in accordance with the degree to which Adonai your God has prospered you. You are to rejoice in the presence of Adonai your God, you, your sons and daughters, your male and female slaves, the Leviim living in your towns, and the foreigners, orphans and widows living among you, in the place where Adonai your God will choose to have his name live. Remember that you were a slave in Egypt. Then you will keep and obey these laws. You are to keep the festival of Sukkot for 7 days after you have gathered the produce of your threshing floor and winepress. Rejoice at your festival, you, your sons and daughters, your male and female slaves, the Leviim and the foreigners, orphans and widows living among you. 7 days you are to keep the festival for Adonai your God, in the place Adonai your God will choose, because Adonai your God will bless you in all your crops and in all your work, so you are to be full of joy. 3 times a year all your men are to appear in the presence of Adonai your God, in the place which he will choose, at the festival of Matzah, at the festival of Shavuot, and at the festival of Sukkot. They are not to show up before Adonai empty-handed, but every man is to give what he can, in accordance with the blessing Adonai your God has given you. And the related scripture references are Isaiah 54:11 to 55:5, and 1 Corinthians 5:9 to 13, and 1 John 4:1 to 6. And again, y'all might be mad at me and might say we don't have nothing more to do with you, but this is what God gave me, and so there it is. If you don't like it, take it up with God. Thank you and have an awesome day.